So here we go again with another step back in time. In 2009 we took our old Jayco and the old Land Cruiser to Cape York, up through the Kidman Way with the kids. It was a great trip. We were gone for about 4 months. Really enjoyed it. A couple of things that stood out on our way up there was this tree of knowledge over in Barcaldine. And the Stockman Hall of Fame up in Longreach, you can't go past it. It was just so informative for the kids. We had a ball there. And couldn't not stop at Mick Dundee's pub and have a beer. When we rocked into Mount Isa, it was about 40 degrees. But the local mine actually built this water park down in the bottom of town, and we just had a ball for the afternoon. It was so hot, we all got in on it. So then we headed north out of Mount Isa up towards Adele's Grove or Lawn Hill National Park. Soon hit the dirt roads, not an off-road van, but it handled it really well. And as water crossings go, the ones heading in through here are just so picturesque. They're some of the best I've seen. And so this is our first stay in Adele's Grove, and down in the Grove it was just packed. There were people everywhere. When we went back last year, it was actually really quiet. There was only half a dozen of us in the campground. And yes, we even took photos of our roasts that we cooked in the camp oven back so many years ago. I just love them, you know. You never get a bad roast out of a camp oven. And our little daughter Emily had a birthday. So all she wanted to do was go out to the pub for lunch. So we headed, I think it was about 100 k's out to the Gregory pub. And a couple of photos here of what it looked like back then and now. It just hasn't changed. Poor Emily. She hated opening gates. That's the look on the face. Anyway, Matt worked it out. He could have a ride while he's at it. So Em jumped on board then, she was right. So we headed out of Lawn Hill and took the old back track that takes you up towards Doomadgee on the Savannah Way. Just a little bit of water in the step of the van. Then when we started travelling the Savannah Way, it was by far the worst, still is the worst road that we've ever travelled on. And so we head into Normanton and see a few trains, the old Golflander going through. Then we took a ride on the RM60, which was about an hour's trip, old petrol motor in it, the bloke had to crank start it. That one's for you, Jem. So I can't exactly remember where this was, but it must be as you come off the dirt heading east along the Savannah Way. And you know what I'm like for my cars, I had to go through it a couple of times just to make sure it was clean. And then into the Atherton Tablelands, where we stayed at the caravan park just out of Yungaburra, and took a trip around Lake Etcham and it's such a beautiful area, this. And into Cairns Coconut Resort, which is probably the best park we've ever stayed in. It's so good for the kids. Took a train ride up the Caravan Scenic Railway, and then we caught the Sky Rail down, and the views from the Sky Rail coming back down into Cairns, it was just fantastic. So the time's come where we're going to ditch the caravan. So we've got a heap of shopping, put our rooftop bag on the car, things like that, the tents and all the stuff out of the van, because we were leaving that with some friends up at Yungaburra. Most people would recognise these guys. My brother and sister-in-law come up to do the Cape with us. And so it was back up the hill to drop the van off at Yungaburra, and then down to meet everyone else at Mosman Gorge, have a quick swim, and then we were on the road heading north. First stop in this little service road area of heading up in the Daintree rainforest. Now here's a better place to stay, the Lions Den Hotel. We just camped out the back and had a great night there. And we were told about this campground where you go into Hopevale to the general store and get a key and get the instructions on how to get out there. It was Elim Beach, a fellow by the name of Eddie out there that run the place. Just such a nice bloke. He was making spears for a museum while we were there, and he was showing the kids and explaining all about them. We fueled up here at Cowan at the halfway point, and then headed into Archer River where we camped up for the night. And while we were there, we went and watched this truck coming across the causeway. It's a 3-trailer road train. You just wouldn't want to meet it on the road, that's for sure. So we turned in towards Lockhart River and Chilli Beach. Couple of little water crossings that we had to go through. There's a bit of a younger version of us. Went for a cruise up Chilli Beach to the little river that was flowing out. We did a bit of croc spotting. There's one over there on the bank. Noticed the kids were sitting right behind me. They wouldn't go near the water. Next day we found this little cafe over at Portland Roads, the most beautiful lunch, and they had this cheesecake that was to die for. I don't know if it's because we hadn't had it for so long, but wow. And so while the rest of our group took the main road back, we headed across the Frenchmans track and met up with these other guys to do the PASCOE river crossing and stuff. Just had a ball on this track. as you can see, I was pretty happy with that crossing. So the Frenchman's track threw a couple of obstacles our way, a little bit of a fire running through, a couple of these deep holes that were just dirty water. Quick stop for some lunch and a bit of a swim in the river. Quick shout out to Murray and Brett. Without them, we probably wouldn't have tackled that Frenchman's track, but we had such a great time out there with you guys. And that night, we meet up again with my brother and the rest of our group and prepare ourselves ready to tackle the Old Telegraph Track. As we watch the sunset over the stockyards at Bramwell Station, I hope you look forward to next week where we head up the Telegraph Track and to the tip of Cape York.